Welcome to the Education Corner, a podcast by Education Choices magazine.
We're thrilled to be able to welcome Miss Laura Whitwood, head at the junior school at St Dunstan's College, to the Education Corner podcast. And we look forward to hearing all about the junior school there. Could you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and your career to date?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me, first of all. So, career to date, prior to St Dunstan's, I worked in an independent girls' school in Norwich, in Norfolk. So, a real change when I moved here to Catford. And soon into my first year in teaching, I was made languages coordinator, and that was due to my interest in modern foreign languages in early education. So that was a really exciting role for me in the early days. And then in my third year, once I'd completed my master's, I was promoted to pastoral care coordinator, and that was a position within the junior school leadership team, which was an opportunity that I really relished because it gave me insight into the strategic development of the school, which was something that I hadn't experienced before. And particularly early on in my career, I really found and developed a passion for pastoral care, dealing with people well-being, behaviour. It was something that I felt quite passionately about. And then after 3 years in that role, I really felt that I was ready for the next step, and the opportunity to progress in that school didn't look like it was likely. There were really established members of the team in more senior positions. So I made what felt like a brave decision at the time to move to Southeast London. So I did lots of research into different schools and was really drawn to St Dunstan's with its liberal, forward-thinking ethos. And there I was appointed as Deputy Head Pastoral, which was a role I absolutely adored. I loved that job. And then I was appointed after 3 years to head of the junior school. And here I am in my fourth year in post. I can't really believe where the time has gone. It's flown by. And I have to say, it really is my dream job. I've really enjoyed steering the junior school ship over these last few years.
What do you feel you've been able to contribute to St Dunstan's Junior School in your role as head?
So what a great question. It's really hard, I suppose, to reflect on yourself in that way, but I'll do my best. I think I'm really lucky in that I've developed a very strong team. So I take staff recruitment and the process behind that very seriously. I'd rather go out 3 times and get the right person for the school than make life easy for myself and go with an easy option that comes through the door very quickly. And what that means is the team that I have established here at St Dunstan's, they're very strong, they're very skilled, knowledgeable. There's a real energy and enthusiasm about them. There's no complacency here in the staff body at St Dunstan's. And that brings a real enthusiasm and a passion and love for teaching, which I think is something very special. And it's something that parents talk to me about regularly, how special the team are here, and prospective parents feel it when they're on their tours and they're walking through the corridors. So I think that's contributed to a real environment of positivity, a real sort of love of learning. And that's not just the pupils, that's also the staff. And it makes school life really quite enjoyable. I do think I've worked really hard on creating a culture of high expectations, and that's in every sense. So both how we track and monitor pastoral needs of children. I don't want any child to fall through the gaps, but also academically. School's been on a real journey, and I hope very much that my ambition for the pupils and the staff is clear to see. Academic trajectory of the junior school has risen quite considerably over the last few years, which has been great. But we managed to achieve those high academic outcomes within a really broad, balanced and dynamic curriculum. And that means a great deal to me. So it's really busy here at St Dunstan's. I'm not a fan of complacency. We work really hard, but we do care a lot about one another. And we're really always striving forward to be the very best that we can be.
Could you tell us about points of entry for the junior school for families who are considering applying?
So there are 3 main points of entry in our junior school. We have 3+ entry, and that's to start in nursery, 4+ for reception, and 7+ for year 3. And often parents consider that these are the only potential starting points for their child. But what I would say is that they really shouldn't rule out considering occasional place entry points for really any year group across the junior school. If they like the look of the school and they're keen for their child to start here, then I'd recommend just registering interest. And even if those year groups are full, we'll get in touch with those parents if they've done that. You know, it's a London school, so sometimes that means there's a little bit of movement and you never really know when a place might become available. So registering interest at the point that you are interested in, whenever that is in the school year or however old your child is in their junior education, it's really important just to get in touch with us, and we'll speak openly about the likelihood of an assessment coming up. And interestingly, what has become sort of an emerging trend actually is for families to decide mid-academic year starting points. Often that's the final term when we have the festival, the weather very nice, you've got things like sports day. It tends to be when we have our residential trips. So it can be a really helpful time for a child to start to make their friends, to go into the long summer holiday, have their play dates with the friends that they've met, and then they can hit the ground running the next academic year come September. So while we do have 3 main points of entry, don't be discouraged from applying at other points, and we'll let you know if a space becomes available for an assessment.
And what do those assessments largely involve?
So it's different for every entry point, as you can well imagine. So for a 3+ entry point, it really is a sort of play session, and parents are there with their child. We recommend that it's only one parent who comes in with their child just because of space. Often parents ask what we can really gather in terms of information from a 3+ assessment like that. Actually, it's quite a lot. We've got really skilled practitioners in that nursery classroom. In our one form, we have 4 teaching assistants, 3 of them are trained teachers, along with the class teacher. So it's obviously really well resourced for a class of 20. And that means from just snapshots of play, how the children interact with one another, how they answer questions, the kind of activities they choose to go to, we can actually get quite a lot of information about them that's very helpful in that assessment process. And then when we move on to 4+, that's a bit more structured because the children are a little bit older and able to separate from their parents. So the children come in small groups, and it looks just like a fun play session actually, but there are stations of activities that they think are games, but one is designed to find out what they've done in terms of phonics, one it links to maths and counting, fine motor skills, all kinds of different things. And the idea behind those stations is that they're very young in age. The range of nursery settings is great, and what they cover in that time is vast. So we want to make sure that we see the best of everybody and what they've covered at that point in the school year. And then we also see how they react to and respond to questions in a story and how they play with one another. So it's a little bit more formal, but they still think that they're leaving having had a really nice morning of play. And then when it's the 7+ assessment day, and really that's the same for any prep entry point, we have the children in for a full day, and there are get to know you sessions in the morning so they can make friends, they can feel comfortable in what's a new environment, they have a tour. We try to settle them before their assessment, and then they go through to some computerized assessments in English, maths, and a non-computerized assessment for us to look at their writing. And then they have lunch, they have a play session, and then in the afternoon they go into normal lessons. So taster lessons to see what life at St Dunstan's is like. And it's a really wonderful day for them. It's really informative for us, because whilst the data from the assessments is obviously very important, getting the right fit for the school is of equal importance. And knowing that that child will sit really comfortably in that cohort in terms of the social dynamics, that means a lot to us as well. So we balance all of that information, which is really rich, that we get from a full day, and that's when we make a decision.
What would you say are some of the main benefits of attending St Dunstan's Junior School?
Where do I begin? I don't think you could really have a better start to education than St Dunstan's. I really don't. But of course, I'm biased. I think within a competitive, independent school market here in South East London, what we have is really unique. And the expectation is that when our parents choose St Dunstan's, they buy wholeheartedly into the college motto. Every school might have a motto or values, and sometimes they just go on the website. But for us, we live and breathe our college motto. So that's Albam Exorna, which translates as adorn the white. And the idea behind that is on the first day that any pupil joins us here at St Dunstan's, however old they are, they're given a metaphorical blank shield, their St Dunstan shield. It's just got a tiny picture of St Dunstan in the corner, and then the rest of it is totally blank. And the idea behind that is that it doesn't stay blank for long. They soon fill it with all kinds of colour, and that colour is made up of their unique experience and journey through St Dunstan's. So what they might choose to put in it could be a risk they've taken on a residential visit, or a fun joke that they've had on the playground with their friend, something from their favourite lesson. It could be an enrichment workshop that they have gone to in a particular area that they are really keen to explore further. So it really could be anything that goes into their shield. And what they love is that at any point in the year, their shield looks like no one else's. So it's not the same as their friends. It's not the same as anyone else in their class or their year group, or indeed all the way through to sixth form. And we really cherish that idea here of individuality. So I think what you can hear a lot of in other independent schools is, you can spot a boy or a girl from our school when they're adults, and you'll know exactly which school they went to, and this is why. These are the attributes that you might see in them, and that's what makes us special. And for those schools, that's great. But for the children here at St Dunstan's, that's really not what we're looking for. We don't want you to ever be able to spot a St Dunstan's pupil other than the fact that they're really brave and bold and true to who they are. And they embrace their individuality, and they love that they have differences from others across the school. So I think that is a real benefit. I think it sets the children up for a really positive future where they'll be really well-rounded adults one day who will feed into the world with their own skills and attributes and really feel confident being true to who they are.
Sounds a wonderful answer. Can you give us some information on the junior school Stuart curriculum, what the benefits are and how does it differ from the traditional PSHE curriculum?
Yes, of course. Actually, just before this recording started, I had taught a group of year 6 pupils their Stuart lesson. So I take year 6, and we had a brilliant lesson all about discrimination and how we can develop preconceived ideas about different people in society. And they obviously went into it saying it's obviously awful. And then we started talking about generalizations that people make about maybe older people not being as good as tech, for example. And some of them they were starting to agree with. And we then explored how that begins. And actually, that's just as offensive as some of the other things we were looking at. So that's what the lessons are like. They're full of discussion, really interesting ideas. The idea is that children should be able to think in a slightly different way. And we encourage them to look at those lessons in far greater detail than perhaps you might in other settings. And we do allow enough time and space in our timetable to really go away from plans if we need to, if something has happened in the news or the wider world that we think would be really beneficial for the children to discuss further. The way that it is loosely set up is that it sits in 3 key strands: relationships, skills for the future, and critical thinking. And it's taught by members of the pastoral team who invest just as much time in these lessons as they do in their English and maths lessons. And it's a real forward-thinking approach to teaching those vital skills for whatever the future might hold for pupils. And we do have to teach, of course, within PSHE. There are statutory requirements, and we make sure that we cover all of those within Stuart. But we can take that further. We have more space in the timetable to really challenge the thinking of pupils, for them to realise that education for them isn't just about getting good results. It's not just about English and maths. Actually, them developing into globally minded, responsible citizens of the future who will have to contribute positively to society. That's also very important and something that they take seriously.
Where does the Stuart come from? I don't suppose you know.
Stuart was one of our pioneering headmasters at the college who wanted to see a curriculum beyond just, English, maths and Latin, and believed that education really should set children up for a positive future, which was quite out there at the time and quite controversial, and sort of represents, I suppose, what St Dunstan's has always been about. It's always been quite forward thinking in its approach to education. So that's where the name comes from. It's really thanks to him.
Could you tell us a little bit about the junior school's work with the broader community in Lewisham?
Work within the community for us here at St Dunstan's involves far more than just lending our facilities out when they're free to other groups within the community, which can sometimes be the case in independent schools, that sort of tick box has been ticked and off you go and you've done your work in the community. But actually what we aim for here at St Dunstan's are meaningful opportunities where we can support and help those in the local community, but also for others to be able to come into our college and share with us what their skills, interests and areas of expertise are. So it works both ways. It's giving to the community, but also for our pupils to benefit from those in the community in terms of learning from them and realising that they are very lucky to be coming to school within Catford, within South East London, and there's a lot that can be learned from growing up in this part of the country. So we have something called a Wren committee, and that's got members of the school staff all across from junior school to senior school, and we come together on a regular basis to look at everything that we're doing within the community. So it might be a charitable event. Yes, it might link to facilities, but it also, more importantly, involves events and activities that are going on that bring members of the community into the college, or us going into the community to work together and learn from one another. So from a junior school perspective, we've done all kinds of things in recent years. One of my favourites actually took place in the festival last year, and that happens in the summer. And we had a sort of community choir with the choir here from St Dunstan's and choirs from the local community and in other state schools in Catford. It was really magical for them to have a whole day together singing really beautifully, sharing what they've been working on in their separate choirs just down the road. And the children loved it. They made really good friends with some of those children. I know that connections were made that then carried on outside of just this day in the festival. So that was a really wonderful opportunity. Within the Forder programme, we have children who go and visit the elderly in a local care home, and they do all kinds of things. So they have to plan in advance, and it might be a card game that they've created, or actually they may have been working on an instrumental piece that they want to share. And the idea is that they get to know those people and what their interests are, and they can think creatively about things they can do together in that time. So it's just a couple of examples. But also within the festival, we're organising at the moment for the whole school to go and access the Catford Muse Cinema for a special cinema session. We are looking at getting local artists in to run workshops, and actually our nursery children walk just down the road to the local library to access the books there, which is really special. So all kinds of things, but we are always looking creatively at what we could do better.
And could you tell us about the junior school's co-curricular Forder programme? One particularly unique aspect of St Dunstan's is the Forest School curriculum, and kind of explaining what this entails and the reason behind its implementation.
Yes, so the Forder programme is named after another pioneering headmaster actually, and is the name that we give to our co-curricular programme. And what's quite unique about that here at St Dunstan's is that it's embedded into the weekly timetable. So there are 2 lessons in the week that are devoted to a co-curricular programme. So everybody has to participate at the very least in those 2 sessions, because of course life can be busy and sometimes children don't have access to the clubs after school because of logistics. So we want to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity. But in addition to this, there are activities happening in the morning, at lunchtimes and after school. Last time I did a count up, we had just over 90 co-curricular activities taking place in just 1 week from reception through to year 6, and they change on a termly basis. So there really is something for everyone. And every single term, I think, how can we come up with different ideas? We must be running out of options now after all this time, but still the staff surprised me with all kinds of weird and wonderful and creative co-curricular activities for the children. And the idea is that they develop skills and talents and find interests that they've never seen before. And they, again, can develop into really confident individuals who know what they like and what they enjoy. And as they then progress through to the senior school, where they have to start making choices about subject areas and things like that, they've had such great and rich exposure to all kinds of different things through our Forder programme and our curriculum. If I were to list them, I could go on for hours, but just yesterday's activities in pre-prep included Bright Starts, Sparks. We had creative writing, Pokemon trainers. I don't really know what that means. We had a library club, a recycling club, looking at word searches, and in prep there are all kinds of other things going on: taekwondo, rugby, touch typing, academic scholarship preparation sessions. There's really something for everyone, and the children love it. And what's really great here at St Dunstan's is we don't really find that the same children pick only the sporty activities or the artistic ones, and they stay within just a certain bubble of the curriculum in terms of what they sign up to. They take it really seriously, that they try a range of activities. So one of my favourite examples is quite recent. I had a chat with a group of boys in year 5, and they do all kinds of rugby outside of school. They do lots of rugby in school through the curriculum, and I was listening to their conversation, and they said, we've got to do something slightly different this term. What should we go for that's totally out there and doesn't link to rugby at all? And there they were deciding that they'd go to SDC Stitches, and they were sewing their initials into cushion covers. And I just don't think that you would get that in every school, the confidence to go and try something totally new and step out of your comfort zone of an area that you think you're really good at. So just let's carry on doing that. Every term, every Forder will select the same kind of things, but we don't get that here at St Dunstan's, which is great. Yes, so that's a Forder programme. And then I believe you asked about the woodland class. So I think probably one of the only great things to come out of COVID was the fact that we had space and time to really work on our woodland classroom. So it was kind of a 2-year project that we managed to squeeze into a few months because of, obviously we didn't have any children on site. And that was great for us for many reasons. But we just really started exploring the idea of outdoor learning and the woodland classroom curriculum when we started to return from COVID. And there were only a few year groups at that point who were allowed to be back in school. And we took the guidance, of course, from the government, and they encouraged at that time for us to have as much learning outside as possible. So it's great that we had created this woodland classroom during this period of time. And we were spending so much time out there, particularly with the very young children, so reception and year 1, and seeing how they developed with the outdoor learning opportunities, being surrounded by nature, yet in the city. It really was eye-opening for all of the staff involved, seeing shy children really come out of their shell, seeing really young children understand so much the awe and wonder in the natural world, and how they begin to understand very early on in their education that they belong to something bigger. They belong to something outside of just their classroom and their class, that there is a world out there for them to explore and be part of, and how much they enjoy that. And actually it's really interesting to see how much additional learning that can come from that. You can take maths outside, you can take English outside, we've had languages outside, and it's great to see the children develop into confident city children, but also countryside adventurers. And so in that period, we decided that it was important to continue. So our reception children, they have a whole day each week in the woodland classroom, and the other year groups will go out and use the woodland classroom if it lends itself to a particular topic that they're looking at. So it's been quite the journey for us, but one that's been incredibly positive and rewarding.
How big is the woodland classroom? It must be quite sizable.
Yes, it is. It's sort of a strip that stretches around our sports hall, and I wouldn't know in terms of exact measurements, but there's real scope for exploration within. So it's called the woodland classroom, but it feels like an area of woodland, if I'm honest. And we're always looking at ways in which we can develop it further. It's kind of getting bigger and bigger. So we've added a pond, and we keep adding things. We've added a fire pit, for example. So who knows where it will end? We'll probably keep feeding into the field as we want more and more.
How does the junior school help students during the transition from the juniors to the senior schools? Because obviously you're very much linked.
So it's a fine balance, actually. We're really lucky in that we have the advantage of being a whole school, and we want to make the most of the comfort that that brings from knowing a school well and it not being a scary step up. However, moving up to year 7 is a really important milestone in education, and we also don't want to take away from how important that is and the change and difference that children should feel when they make that big step. So we work really hard to try to get the balance right. And it's sort of a tried and tested model now that begins all the way from year 5 and goes on from there, and begins really with just a very gentle assembly, a Q&A session with the head, because children at that early point it tends to be quite funny questions, but they're not thinking too seriously about year 7. So if they get those questions like, how much homework is there? And, there's always something really funny, like, where's your parking space? That kind of thing. If we have an assembly very early on to get those questions out of the way, the seed is sort of sown for them. And then from that point onwards, it builds up from there. So we have lots of workshops happening in the senior school so that the children can become familiar with the facilities and the staff. And then once they get into year 6, there are more sort of formal opportunities for them to really start to think about the next steps. And that's launched from the very beginning of year 6 onwards. So there are follow-up assemblies where the children really have thought more carefully about the kind of questions that they want to ask and what matters to them. We have lots of presentations. So we have presentations for pupils and parents and webinars on different strands of senior school life. So pastoral care, what's meant by a Renaissance curriculum, what the co-curricular programme will look like. There are also taster assemblies. So where our year 6 children will go and sit with the year 7 children for an assembly. They meet all the members of the team. So the different members of the senior leadership team will lead something, whether that is a presentation or a webinar, whether they come into the Stuart lessons to work with the children. That can be really helpful. And also we really benefit from the children hearing from other year 7 pupils who have made that journey. And they talk, you can't stop them saying what they really think when they're in year 7. They talk really openly about things that they found challenging, things that children should look forward to, and really giving them top tips on things that they can work on. And I think they find that just as valuable as the information that they'll get from the teachers. And the other thing that we make sure that we put in place is several events that enable our junior school pupils to integrate with the external pupils who join. It's really important that we don't have a separation between those who know the college and those who are new to the college. So they are put into different classes, they're really mixed up. There are lots of team building activities, treasure hunts, all kinds of things like that, where they can start to make connections with the new children joining the school.
What overall do you feel are the benefits of the junior school being part of a larger community like St Dunstan's College?
As a junior school within a whole college, we benefit from that enormously. And we do take the whole college setting very seriously. That can be the fact that we benefit from additional resources, senior school facilities, which really are state of the art, but also the subject specialist knowledge that you get in a senior school and the expertise that comes from that. So our subject coordinators in the junior school work very closely with the heads of subject in the senior school. They look at one another's development plans, they do shared observations. They, in each subject, ahead of any transition point from year 6 to year 7, they'll go through pupil lists and share information that they need about pupils ahead of them starting. And we also look at lots of enrichment opportunities for children in the junior school who are particularly interested in an area of the curriculum to go over and have a workshop or have a session that's run by the senior school specialists. And we're really good at contacting the senior school if we're doing a particular topic that means that going over there would be really beneficial to us. And that's the same from nursery through to year 6. And it's not just the senior school teachers, it's being part of a really big college. So we've had the house staff come in and speak to nursery about how they look after the grounds, for example, which they find really interesting. We've had this week, year 1, went over to the science labs in the senior school and had a demonstration looking at how the body makes us superhuman, for example. So we really do try to think creatively each year about which topics would lend themselves well to collaboration with the senior school, which is always great. The children love going over there, and also the senior school staff love getting to know the junior school pupils. In fact, when we moved into this building, so we moved into our new building in the junior school in 2021, it was our reception pupils who were the first children across the college to put hard hats on and go and see how the building evolved and offer some advice to the architects and see how something can turn from just one brick into something so amazing, which was just the most invaluable real life experience for them. So we're always thinking about how we can make the very best of being a whole college.
And just very quickly, what do you envision for the future of St Dunstan's Junior School going forwards?
For us, it's been a real journey in terms of us moving into our new building that I've just mentioned and the way in which the Woodland classroom has evolved. Now, every classroom here in the junior school, not just in early years, has a dedicated outdoor area, including a huge roof terrace for our upper key stage 2 pupils. And we didn't have that before in the previous building. And what I didn't want when we moved in was to sort of fill it with resources that we thought might be useful, but we weren't sure. That's obviously a huge expense, and we hadn't tried and tested what we might need that space for. So we've left them relatively empty to grow into the building and the classrooms and begin to understand how we might use those spaces so that they can really feed into the learning in the best ways possible. So our next stage, now we are settled in this building and used to it and love it, is to look at those spaces, seek the opinion of pupil council, see what they want from those outside areas, and start to grow them and evolve them. So we've begun with early years because it's obviously so important to their learning, and we're working our way through to the spaces that year 6 have to make sure that what we buy is meaningful and purposeful and lends itself so well to the curriculum. So this terrace at the moment, I believe we're going to have a reading area, we're going to have a mini stage for performances, we want a little area with planters, we want, for our science lessons as well. Reception have created a huge sky garden, which is amazing. And had we just thrown money at the outside areas at the very beginning, we never would have developed them in that way. So that's really our next stage, to continue to grow into this building.
Well, I'm very excited and due to visit soon, I hope, and see it all firsthand. But thank you very much for your time. It sounds like a very exciting junior school to be a part of.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.